From WisPolitics in Madison, you're listening to Capital Chats.
Hello, everybody. This is Kate Morton with WisPolitics.com here with a Capital Chats podcast brought to you by Spectrum. Today, I'm here with my colleague Adam Kelnhofer, who recently interviewed Department of Veterans Affairs Secretary James Bond. So, Adam, tell us a little bit about that conversation.
Hi, Kate. Yeah, I got to catch up with Secretary Bond recently. We talked primarily about budget priorities because it is budget season, and the Department of Veterans Affairs, like other departments, has quite a few asks. And a lot of those asks seem to focus on improving care at the 3 veterans' homes that the DVA oversees. And one of those is the Union Grove Veterans Home, which has been the subject of a lot of controversy. Even so much so that last year, some Wisconsin members of Congress submitted a letter asking for some answers on why there are some major quality of care issues at the Union Grove Veterans Home. So let's just get right into it. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me to today's Capital Chats podcast. Today, I'm joined by Department of Veterans Affairs Secretary James Bond to talk about some of the most interesting updates in the Department of Veterans Affairs and its budget season. So we are going to be focusing on budget issues. So welcome to the show, Secretary Bond.
Thank you, Adam, for having me.
And just for clarification's sake, you don't also go by 007, do you?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. So that works for me. Actually, Adam, I'd like to share with you, I was in the Marine Corps for 4.5 years. I was stationed with John Lennon, Van Halen, and Jimi Hendrix. And when I got out of the Marine Corps and returned back to Wisconsin, my CVSO, County Veteran Service Officer here in Dane County, was Michael Jackson. And when I joined the Department of Veterans Affairs in 2010, our chief legal was Jimmy Stewart. So there's a lot of us celebrity types out there.
Oh, you've worked with a star-studded cast, it sounds like. All right. So I just let's go to the budget right here or right away. So what are the top budget priorities for the Department of Veterans Affairs this year?
Well, the top budget priorities for us is that, obviously Governor Evers include budget funding for the improvement of our homes, a master plan for King, investments in the homes, funding to assess the long-term care needs of veterans, and funding for recruitment and retention of our employees. There's also been a lot of focus in the governor's budget with respect to providing funding for vital services that will help our at-risk veterans needing housing assistance, employment, substance abuse recovery, mental health support services, and much more.
All right. Sounds like a comprehensive list.
Yes.
So I want to touch on the Union Grove Veterans Home because that's been in the news for the last few years for some issues with the quality of care there. There's actually been quite a few members of Congress from Wisconsin have asked for some answers on what's going on at Union Grove and some improvement. So can you kind of give our listeners an update about how things are going in Union Grove?
Certainly. First of all, I just want to let you know that WDVA oversees 3 state veterans homes, one in Chippewa Falls, King, and at Union Grove. These are great homes. We provide top quality care, and we have great staff working for us at all 3 of those facilities. Are there challenges? Most definitely there are challenges. We're certainly aware of that, but we're not alone. As you may know, nursing homes across the state and the nation have been struggling with staffing challenges long before this administration, and certainly long before I joined the department in 2010. COVID pandemic obviously just exacerbated the challenges, and at WDVA, we are committed to doing everything that we can to meet these challenges head on as we move forward. As I mentioned, the governor's budget includes providing direct funding to improve the homes. In addition to those priorities that the governor has outlined in his budget, my team is also working to put together surveys so that we can hear directly from the members and our staff and their family members about the operations of the homes and how things are going. And I'm going to create a work group that's actually going to analyze the results of the survey so that we can look at both short-term and long-term goals to improve the conditions at the homes. Additionally, we're going to be doing a full operational assessment of both Union Grove and King to make targeted long-term changes that will make the campuses a better place to live and work. So yes, there have been challenges. The governor's budget addresses many of those challenges, and we have plans in place to move forward and try to look at some of those operational issues and to improve the success down there at the homes.
Have you been able to talk with any of the members of the Joint Finance Committee to kind of try to drive home some of the importance of some of these budget issues to the Department of Veterans Affairs?
I've had the opportunity to speak to Joint Finance at this point. I have spoken to a few members of the legislature as a part of the confirmation process and stuff, but I have been communicating a lot with veteran service organizations in my travels across the state and in meetings and stuff that I've been holding here at the department, talking about my priorities here in the department and talking about the governor's budget initiatives and obviously the situation dealing with the homes.
Does it sound like those Joint Finance Committee members, are they pretty receptive to these budget asks, or do you think are they gonna cut that out? And if they do cut it out, do you think, is there enough in the Department of Veterans Affairs to kind of resolve a lot of these issues?
I remain optimistic, Adam, that the governor's proposals will get passed, but it's now in the hands of the legislature. But again, I remain optimistic, and I know that in the end, the legislature will support the governor's budget initiatives and do what's right for veterans here in the state of Wisconsin.
All right. I want to talk a little bit more about you, actually, because you haven't been in the news a lot lately, but you have a pretty important job in the state, and you've come in with some issues in the department that weren't necessarily there because of you or at all or anything, but what do you think gives you, in your background, what do you think gives you what it takes to kind of take some of these issues on?
Well, first, I want you to know that I've got 3 decades of service, service to the nation, service to the state of Wisconsin, and service to veterans here in Wisconsin. I've worked as a public servant here in Wisconsin for the past 28 years. In several leadership positions at the Department of Workforce Development, and then joined the Department of Veterans Affairs back in 2010, serving as administrator in 2 different divisions, and then most recently as the deputy secretary, and then currently as the secretary of the department. So I've got a lot of leadership experience that comes with me and stuff, and I'm just looking forward to working with the governor to advance the needs of veterans here in Wisconsin. I will say, Adam, that I'm very happy and very honored to serve as Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs. A representation, I'm the first openly LGBT secretary to serve, and representation does matter. You know, having a seat at the table does matter. And Governor Evers understands this and appoints qualified individuals with diverse backgrounds to serve on his team. When I joined the department in 2010, I was looking at a wall of current and former secretaries of the department, and there was only one African American secretary. And I was looking at that picture, and I saw myself in this African American person, and I thought to myself, you know, someday I could become secretary. And then in 2019, Governor Evers appoints Mary Kohler, the first and only woman to serve as secretary of this department. And then most recently appointed me as secretary, the first openly LGBTQ secretary. And I can tell you, as we move forward, other people will walk past that role of secretaries. They might be able to identify themselves or see themselves in those secretaries and say to themselves, you know what, someday I can become secretary. So again, representation does matter.
All right. So what do you think you from former Secretary Kolar, what was, if you had to take only one thing away from learning under Secretary Kolar, what would it be that you brought into this new position?
I would say that I've been fortunate to work under three previous secretaries of this department, both Democrat and Republicans, under John Skokels, Ken Black, and Mary Kohler. And I will say that I have nothing but the deepest respect and admiration for all three of those secretaries and appreciate all that they have done here in Wisconsin to serve veterans. And I was just glad to be a part of their team.
All right. What is so aside from some of these budget challenges, if you got the opportunity to kind of add to the Department of Veterans Affairs responsibilities, is there anything out there that you wish the department could take on that it currently doesn't handle?
Well, I think what I would want to add to say to that though is that one of my top priorities is strengthening relationships with our stakeholders. I've been sharing with our stakeholders that I've been meeting with over the past few months that I can't do this alone. What I mean by that is I can't serve veterans by myself. Our department can't serve veterans by ourselves. We need all of us working together as stakeholders here in Wisconsin, coming together to address the needs of veterans and better serve veterans throughout this state.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have time for, unless there's anything else you wanted to mention that I haven't touched on.
Nope, I think that's good, Adam. I appreciate the time.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me on today's show. It was a pleasure to have you, and I hope you have a good rest of your week.
Thank you. You too.
Well, Adam, thank you for sharing that interview, and we'll have to keep an eye out on how the budget discussions go in the coming weeks.
That's right, Kate. And if our listeners want to read more about the budget and how it's going, they can head over to our website at wispolitics.com and check out the budget blog. But for now, I'm Adam Kellenhofer.
I'm Kate Morton.
Thanks for tuning in to WisPolitics Capital Chats, brought to you by Spectrum.